friends. Wow, here we are in 2021, a year ahead of blank pages and promises. I don't have any special shout outs this week. My special shout out is to you. Whether you have been following these videos for the last 8 months, joined partway through, or even if this is your first time taking some time to explore God and yourself and life and be creative together. Happy New Year and best wishes to you. Today is also Epiphany. When I think of the word Epiphany, I think of a cartoon character with a light bulb that turns on above his head that says, I just had an epiphany. I just understood something really, really big. That's Epiphany. And it's a celebration of a special story, one that we've already introduced through our Christmas story, because sometimes it gets lumped in with the Christmas story. That's the story of the Wisemen, or the Magi, or the astronomers. So let's revisit the story of the astronomers again today. So I have some characters here and some items to help us remember this story. And maybe you can think back to the Christmas story, or if you watched our pageant, which was so much fun, we met the three magi, the three astronomers. Here they are. And if we remember from our story, there might not have been three. What we know is that these people lived far away from where Jesus was born. They didn't necessarily call God by the same name as Jesus' family. And their job was to watch the stars and to watch for signs in the stars, because they believed that the stars would tell them of major events in the world. And they were particularly looking for a special star that would tell them when a new king was born. And one night they noticed a star appear. And they knew this star was super different than any of the other ones that they had seen. And so they believed that one would tell them there was a king who had been born, and they had to go find that king. And they had to go find that king to recognize that baby and to give gifts to that baby. But remember, they still believed that this king that was born under the star was royal and important, and other people would know about this king. So they packed their things and off they went. And they probably had a huge crowd of people that went with them, because they needed to pack their food and their water and their gifts. And they were traveling a long way, and there were no Airbnbs or hotels, so they had to pack their tents, and maybe they brought their families, and maybe they brought other animals with them, and then they had to bring people to help them with their tents and their food. And oh my goodness, now we have a big crowd of people, all following this star. Now along the way, they lost sight of where this star was as they got close to Bethlehem, and so they had to stop, and they stopped in to find the king. They probably stopped to ask that king about where the baby was, because they would believe that the current king must know where the new baby king is. But Herod didn't know, because Herod hadn't had a baby. So now Herod, he's getting a little bit nervous, because if it's not his baby who's going to be the next king, then whose baby is about to be the next king? So he told those astronomers, he said, you know what, you guys go find that king, because I really want to give the gifts to that king too. So he sent them on their way with the hopes that they would come back and tell him where the new king was born. So the astronomers, they went off, and sure enough, that night, the star was there again, and they followed that star, and they found the baby Jesus, and they were surprised, because the baby Jesus wasn't born in a palace or a castle or some rich place. The baby Jesus was born among normal people, to normal people. And that was their epiphany. Their epiphany was that God's king was the king of the people. Now, maybe you remember there are 3 gifts. There are 3 gifts that those kings brought. They brought gold, and the second one was myrrh, and then they brought frankincense. And so the kings brought these 3 gifts. Gifts that were meant for a powerful king, but that were now handed over to the most ordinary of babies. Well, often we stop the story there and we reflect on what are the gifts that we might bring. And I do wonder, what are the gifts that maybe you would bring to the baby Jesus? What are the gifts that you would bring to a baby born today to help tell them how important they are to you and to the world? But as you think of that, the story actually does continue, because the astronomers, while they're visiting the baby Jesus, they go to sleep, as one would, and they're visited in their dreams by an angel. And the angel warns them that Herod was not being honest, and that Herod means to harm this baby. And so the astronomers, waking up with that knowledge, decided they would not go back to King Herod. And so they left another way. And word got back then to King Herod that the astronomers had snuck out without coming back to him, and he got really, really mad. So he sent out this message that he would get rid of all the babies who were under 2 years old. Well, Joseph also had a dream. Jesus' father also had a dream. And in his dream, he was warned that King Herod was coming after his child. And so Joseph, when he got up in the morning, packed his family up, and they left. And they left and were told that they went a long, long distance to Egypt, where they hid until it was safe for them to return. But we're reminded through the story that Jesus was displaced. And so I wonder, as we go into this new year ahead, and some of us might be making New Year's resolutions, I wonder, what lesson can we pull from the story? What is something that you could promise to do for people around you who might be still experiencing the story that we're told Jesus lived? That story of not being safe at home, that story of having to leave, that story of feeling as though you don't belong. I wonder what's something that you can do this year to help somebody feel as though they belong. The story of Jesus' birth is not just the story of a little baby who's born. We are told the early life of Jesus was not only ordinary and simple, it was hard. It was hard. And yet God was present every step of the way. And as we go into this new year, we remember that sometimes life is hard. It was for Jesus, and sometimes it is for us. But we're not alone, and God is along that journey with us. That is the heart of the Christmas story. So for our craft today, I thought we would create a star to remind us of that Epiphany. So let's make a star to remind us that each and every ordinary person is part of God's plan and is important. We're going to make this out of cardboard and aluminum foil. And then I also have some permanent markers. That's a pencil. Some permanent markers to help me color in. And I'm going to make some shapes that I'm going to use a hot glue gun for. But if you would rather not use a hot glue gun, a little bit of yarn and some white glue will do the same job. But the first tricky part is we have to figure out how to cut a star. So I'm going to create a 6-pointed star to do this today, because then I can just make 2 triangles, put them together, and I will have a star. But to start, I need to create a triangle. So I've cut the edges off of this cardboard box, and I'm going to start by finding the middle of this piece of cardboard. The way I'm going to do that is, here's the end, I folded it in half, and so that's the half point. I'm going to make a mark right here. That's halfway, and I'm going to make a mark up here. That's halfway. And then I'm going to draw a line between these two. There we go. That's my halfway line down the cardboard. And I want to make a triangle that has 3 sides that are exactly the same length. So this here I know is that length. So I'm going to use this to measure, and I'm going to go from the corner, and I'm going to attach it to the line in the middle, and I'm going to draw a line there. And then I'm going to attach this corner to the top of that triangle. And now I have one triangle that has 3 equal sides. And I'm going to cut out this triangle. Okay, here's my start. I have my triangle. And now I'm going to use this triangle to create my star. So to start, I'm going to put it right here on my piece of cardboard, and I'm going to trace this triangle here. So I've lined up the point with the edge, and those 2 points with those 2 edges. And now I'm going to take my triangle, I'm going to turn it upside down and put it over top. And then you can play with where you want to put it. I think I want it about there. And now I'm going to trace the triangle again. Okay, lift that up. And there is my 6-pointed star. Now I'm going to cut out this star, but okay. Here is my star that I have cut out. There are some extra lines here, but that's okay because we're going to cover all of this with aluminum foil, so we won't see those lines. Now what we want to do is to create a little bit of a stained glass effect. So you know, when we've done stained glass before, or maybe you've seen stained glass, it has black or metal lines, and in between those lines it has different colors. So we need to create those lines on our star. I'm going to do that using my glue gun, and I'm going to start here and then just put a bead of glue in a straight line like that. And now I'm going to add maybe 4 or 5 other beads of glue like this in random directions to create some different shapes on my star. Here we have the lines that I have added. So there are not too many lines. We don't want our areas to be too small, but let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 lines, which creates these nice little blocks here on my star. And again, if you wanted to use yarn, you could put yarn in white glue and lay your yarn in straight lines on your star like this too. This is looking a little bit strange. What are we doing with all of these lines on our star? Well, hang in there. Let's see what the next step is, because maybe it'll start to make sense soon. So now we're going to grab some aluminum foil, and I'm going to use this so that I have the shiny side up. I'm going to cut it so it's just a little bit bigger than my star, because what I want to do is fold the aluminum foil over the star. There we go. So I'm going to lay this shiny side down. I'm going to put my star so that the bumpy part is lying down on the dull part of the aluminum foil. And then I'm going to start to gently try and fold the aluminum foil over the edges of the star. And you're going to have to rip the aluminum foil a little bit to fit around the points of the star. So I folded this side, and if I wanted to, I could take another piece like this, and I could glue it on the back to cover up all of that open space. On the front side now, we should have one smooth piece of aluminum foil, and I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to gently push it down along the lines of the hot glue that I put on the other side, or if you put yarn along there. So as I just gently push on the aluminum foil along those lines, you can begin to see that the lines are showing up. There we go. There they all appear. There. So now we have our lines on the front. And you could just leave it like this. It looks kind of neat with those geometric shapes. But what I'm going to do is grab a Sharpie or some permanent markers, and I'm going to color in each one of these sections in a different color. Well, here's my finished star. Here's some things I noticed along the way, that using a wide-edged marker worked a lot better than a thin one. And using darker colors show up a little bit brighter than the light ones, although I kind of like this little piece here that's kind of a pink color. I wonder, what did you learn along the way? Did you have any epiphany moments? Well, here is my Epiphany Star. I'm going to hang this on my wall because as it is a new year and a new season, my walls have become bare again. So I'm going to hang this up here to remind me of the story of the astronomers and to remind me of that epiphany moment that God is not just for the rich and the powerful, but God came for the ordinary. And Jesus had really difficult times, but remembered through all of that God was with him. Where will you hang your star? Well, my friends, as we go into this new year, let's bless each other onto the journey into 2021. May there be love in your heart to give. May there be joy in your heart to share. And may there be strength in your heart to lift others up. Bye!